Hello. How's everybody doing? We are all having a good Monday. Hello, everybody who's joining us. And hello, say hello to our mod, Vin. Vin's gonna be modding today's stream for me, so everybody thank Vin for checking in and helping out. But hello, Jess Frazier, glad you're able to make it to this stream. Hello, Chris versus Games. Chris versus Games. That sounds like I wanna know what kind of games you're playing. And then we got Flint on pause. Well, hello. Yeah, glad you're all able to join us on our stream today. Yeah, we got a jam-packed one for today. I guess I'll leave this on the screen in case some of you are not too sure as to what we're gonna be doing for today. But yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Give me a sec. Some of the shortcuts got changed. Oh, interesting. Oh, it like reset for me. Okay, give me a sec, everybody. I did not realize all my shortcuts got altered. What did I make this one? Ooh, you know what? We will worry about that one later. This one. Yeah, sorry about that. Give me a quick sec. Control, I think this one, I had it at shift. Yeah, so I guess maybe I'll put this here so you guys can see it. Essentially, I downloaded a new driver from XPPen because I realized, oh, I haven't actually updated my drivers in a long time. So I updated it and it gave me a new one. I guess it kind of changed everything on my end. And I didn't realize that it changed everything. Let me see. Ring function. Yes. This one. I want it to be Alt. Okay. So usually these are my shortcuts. I forgot what I made this one. Oh, this one's X. There we go. Okay, I think that's how I like it, at least. Yeah, that looks about right. Looks pretty good. So if any of you are using the XPPen and you've always wondered like, oh, if you have like the side button panels and you're like, oh, I want to change them, this is how you change them. You open up like the pen tablet app that comes up when you download the driver, and then you can change the buttons to how you want them to be. Stream thumbnail is draw Bet Joseph. Oh boy, that'd be funny. No, we are. You know, I still have never watched. I still have not watched a single bit of JoJo before. Oh yeah, there we go. Alright, there we go. Now it's flowing the way I want it to flow. Okay, cool. Well, everybody, glad you're able to make it to stream. Let's get it started. For today, as you can kind of see, our topic is going to be doing motion studies using video references. And on my screen right now, you can probably see all the options that I kind of put out there. Honestly, I wasn't really too sure what direction to take it in because I was like, oh, if I kind of was thinking, oh, should I include like animation clips? But I think the way I want to show you guys how to use video references is how you can take poses and the gestures that you see in videos and use videos as a source of like literal using it as you would references. So instead of going on to like Instagram or Pinterest or even Google Images to try to search for kind of like the proper pose or anything like that, I want to kind of show you guys how you can like just watch videos, kind of look up maybe like skiing videos or boxing videos or baseball videos, whatever it is, to kind of get you a better sense of like how that motion would be performed. Because sometimes a photo can only do so much, especially sometimes for photos we're more of like holding the pose and trying to get into the pose that we think we should be doing. and then we try to hold it. But the problem with that is that sometimes doing that kills the momentum a little bit. And it's also not like the most truest form of the pose, or like how that action would be. So video references are great for doing like more dynamic style poses. And using video references is also even better because then you don't have to film yourself doing the pose. So if you don't know how to do a backflip, well, lucky you. You don't actually have to do the backflip. You could just find a video reference of someone doing the backflip to use as reference. So these were the ones I came up with, and I guess that's going back to like why I didn't want to use animation I guess examples or references, because the rule of thumb when it comes to animation is that you want to almost treat it like you are doing it from scratch. So if you ever think about all of like the acting clips that you sometimes see where it's like, oh, this is how they did the performance or captured the performance in Spider-Verse, and they show like the animator doing the performance, it's because they have to come up and time the timing with like the lip sync and the motion. They have to do it all themselves. And they can't just like, oh, I'm gonna refer to what we did in, I don't know, Monsters Inc. or how we animated characters in Incredibles. Like maybe you can use that as inspiration, but most animators wouldn't use that for like the direct reference, because they're trying to do it from scratch, because every performance, every movement should be kind of unique and or maybe more specific for whatever pose they're doing. So that's why I didn't want to do an animation clip as a reference, and we're going to use like more realistic ones. Now I know there's a little bit of a problem with my statement because we're doing Spider-Man for today, and obviously Tobey Maguire did not do like swinging throughout New York realistically. So there is a little bit of I guess, well, a little bit of an exception that we'll have when it comes to doing the Spider-Man poses, because technically they're not real life. No one actually was swinging. Sorry, I guess, to break the illusion, but no one was actually swinging around New York dressed as Spider-Man. But we'll give it a little bit of an exception just because of how fun of a topic this will be. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, and hopefully we're all on the same page about that. But yeah, so the plan is we're gonna I have all these videos ready, and we're gonna kind of sift through some of these videos. We're not just going to do Spider-Man, but Spider-Man will probably be like the main focus, and then we're gonna do some like climbing poses, and we'll also do some baseball poses. I saw some recommendations where it's like Spider-Man playing baseball, and I was like, oh, you know what, that's kind of fun. Maybe we'll try that out if we have some time. But yeah, this is gonna be kind of the plan for today's stream. And then I guess the reason why we're doing this is to show you guys just in general how you can find references and then also translate what we see into actual poses. So hopefully by the end of this, you guys will be able to find your own video references and try this out, and hopefully maybe give yourself a different type of exercise, because sometimes we get a little bit repetitive when it comes to figure drawing or trying to practice poses by going on figure drawing websites or going to live figure drawing sessions. And not gonna lie, sometimes the poses, they get a little bit repetitive, and the model can only do the same pose over and over again because they have to hold the pose. So finding video references is almost like an alternative to doing that. Let's see, and then But yeah, so glad you guys are all able to make it to our stream. If this is your first time, well, welcome. My name is Josh, and I am one of the instructors here at Winged Canvas. I specialize in illustration, animation, and drawing and painting. I know that sounds like a lot for specialization, but those are kind of like the three classes that I teach. And if you don't know who we are, we're a school of illustration and visual storytelling dedicated to helping art nerds turn their passion into income. So if this is your first time also on our stream, we usually run our streams for about 2 hours ish. Sometimes if the project's getting a little bit complicated and we just need a little bit more time, we'll go a little bit more than 2 hours, but usually we try to aim for 2 hours. So we're gonna try to do as much as we can to fit in all our drawing poses and exercises. But yeah. Oh yeah, so yeah, the first portion is usually the lesson, a little bit of a demonstration, and then we'll go into just like actual drawing. And if you guys want to follow along as well, feel free to do so. You don't have to use the same references as me. You can kind of look up your own video references, but yeah, you can feel free to follow along or just hang around and chill. Live streams are always like a super kind of like comfortable, safe, and fun place for you guys to all hang out and draw if you'd like to. But if you guys also know, we don't just jump right into the actual topic. We actually do a little bit of the art challenge. So let me just switch it over here. Yeah, and today, or not today, this month's art challenge is anatomy in motion. So I guess that's why for today's stream we're doing videos or motion using video references. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, we have a Discord server that is open to the community and to the public for you guys to join. It's a super great place to kind of get connected with other art nerds and join a very friendly and welcoming art community that is always sharing their work and encouraging one another. But we also host monthly challenges. So every month, as I guess the phrase as it kind of is implied, it's a monthly challenge. So every month there's a new challenge. And for the month of February, we are doing anatomy, kind of focusing on figures and motion and kind of action poses. So for the entirety of the month, if you want to kind of submit your drawings and it's related to kind of action poses, feel free to post them onto our Discord server. And yes, the server is totally open to anyone. So you could be super skilled, or you could be like fresh off of like learning how to draw and you're like, I've never held a pencil before and I've never opened a sketchbook. Yes, you are also still welcome to join the Discord server. But just to kind of show some love and shout out to our community, we like to kind of share the submissions that people have been putting into the art challenge channel in our server. So the first one up is let me see. Oh, whoops. Okay, let's go back a bit. First one up is by Arquitrix. So thank you, Arquitrix, for submitting. Really great pose here. I have drawn poses where people are doing like very dynamic gymnastic poses before, and they are not easy. If anyone's ever done like people who are like very muscular and their body is built for gymnastics or very acrobatic type poses, you'll come to realize that mapping out the pose and the torso is not an easy thing to do. But Arquitrix, I think you did a great job of mapping this out. This looks awesome, and the figure reads really well. There's a good sense of elegance to this one. And yeah, I look forward to seeing some more poses or drawings from you if you do any more during this month. It is the beginning of February, so you guys have a lot of time to submit more pieces. Okay, the next one is by G Comic Man. I don't know, this one might be a little bit hard for you guys to see, but hopefully you can kind of see it. Maybe I'll bring it onto my drawing space and then I'll zoom in for this one maybe. But this one's super cool. There's like so much like movement and dynamics to this. So for those who are like maybe a little bit or like you have a little bit of time seeing what this is, it's kind of like, it looks like figure skating, and I guess that's kind of in theme since the Olympics are going on. Don't know if anybody of you are watching the Olympics, but yes, the Winter Olympics are happening right now, so maybe this study was going on while they were watching the Olympics and like the skating program happening, because these look really cool. These look like the type of sketches and figure drawings that you'd see if someone's like sitting in front of their TV and they're just watching it happening in front of them. So like there's almost this like really high energy and like almost this freneticism, I don't think that's a word, but this freneticism and kind of just dynamics happening with the line work. That's really cool. So G Comic Man, awesome figure study here. I really love it. Okay, next one is, oh actually this is the last one. This is by Calamity. I showcased Calamity's work last time as well, but also really great stuff in general. Really love all the different uses of colors. I know that you're trying to, I'm gonna guess or assume that the different colors are just to showcase the different parts and elements from the pose, but I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's almost looks like an artwork, like a finalized artwork in itself with all like the colors and everything. But this is one of theirs, and then there's another one that they did. I actually really like this one. This one worked and turned out really well. Just the plane, the perspective that's done on this looks really good. So if any of you are like not too sure, it's like, oh, I always want to draw someone lying on the ground, but they always look too flat. I know that might sound a little bit weird, right? But like sometimes when people lie down, or you're drawing someone sleeping on the bed, or they're sleeping on the ground, or whatever it is, they look almost too flat. And part of that is where you put like the contact points. So, you know, Calamity, you did a really good job of having the head be a little bit higher and then the arm and the shoulder be a little bit lower, so that there's a little bit of perspective happening, and it looks really good. So this pose, I think, turned out great, and the hair looks great too. So thank you all three of you guys for your submissions. And again, it's only February 9th. This challenge is running throughout the entirety of the month, so you guys still have like a good amount of time to throw in any kind of motion figure drawing pieces or studies that you are doing throughout the month. And who knows, maybe we'll give you a shout out on our live streams. We don't always sometimes do it just in case we're tight on time, but I would say we try to go out of our way to give a little bit of love and shout out to our community as much as we can. So yeah, who knows, you might get a shout out. Awesome. Yeah, congrats to everybody who submitted, and thank you for submitting your lovely pieces. Okay, so getting now into the topic at hand, just gonna bring up all the videos. Let me see. Okay. I know I have Guerrero right here. If you guys don't know, this was a very hype moment for all of us here in Toronto, but still a little bit sad when I think about like how we lost. I still get a little sad. But this is like I would say like I tried to get the moment where Guerrero, so that's the player over here, tried to get the home run. So we'll probably be kind of maybe doing some studies from like here around to like, you know, maybe we could draw like the pitcher, maybe we could draw like the batters a little bit. So it's gonna be like a little bit of a mix of like a figure drawing session, not timed or kind of pre-planned in any way. The way I want to use these video references is kind of like how you would if you were drawing like an actual piece, where you have like an image saved and it's just on the side, and you are kind of open to as much time as you need to study it. So it's a figure drawing. This, I guess you can kind of treat this stream as like a mix of a figure drawing stream mixed with like action posed and dynamic pose studies. But the figure drawing session is in the sense that it's there's a model, in this case the references, and we're going to be studying them, but there's no restriction on time. I was rooting for Toronto so bad. They deserved. I know, I really wanted us to win. Like I said it, I forgot where I said this, but like, who wants LA to win again? No one wants the Dodgers to win. But looking forward to the next season. Speaking of that, I do need to buy like the next tickets. They are open. But yeah, so we have baseball here. We can do some of those. We got our good old Spider-Man pose here that we are gonna draw as well. Probably gonna do a bunch of them. And then we also got like free solo over here. I think like this is where I got the screenshot from. If you guys haven't seen this, by the way, this is like a documentary on how he plans out how to climb El Capitan, I think is the what it's called. But yeah, Alex Honnold, basically this is a documentary on like National Geographic, which is I guess Disney Plus, that you can watch it on. It's not too long, like an hour and a half, but he plans out how he climbs the mountain. It's really cool. But this is the clip from the movie. And so yeah, we're gonna be doing that. Tobey Maguire, yeah, it is. We are doing OG Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So yeah, we're gonna be doing all three of these, but primarily we'll focus on Spider-Man. And just to kind of get us all on the same page, I'll show you how I use videos as like a source of reference. So if you guys didn't know, I guess this is like a quick tutorial on how to navigate your YouTube video. If you want to scrub through, you can always hover over your timeline and you get a preview of it. But let's say you played it. So we'll just play it. And there's a really cool pose. And it's like, oh, I wanted to get it right before he launched up. Oh, shoot, I missed it. I got to rewind. And you play it again. And then you got to watch like the full 5 seconds again. And then you're like, okay, let me time it again. Oh, no, I missed the shot. So on YouTube, there's a really cool function where you can actually scrub through the frames, frame by frame. So the comma key is to go back a frame, and the period key is to go forward a frame. So this is how I navigate every kind of YouTube video if I'm trying to like use it to kind of like just scrub through something or trying to look for inspiration in it or anything like that. So let's say this is the frame that I wanted. This one right where he launches. That's a cool frame. So now I can kind of find it because I can use like the period and the comma key to scrub through. The other thing too is if it's a really, really long video, but you want to kind of still find the frame, YouTube has included this like semi-new, it's not like that new, but it's kind of new, where you can click and drag up the timeline and it'll give you this more zoomed in kind of video preview. So now you can kind of just click and drag, and sometimes if there's a specific pose in my mind that I know that I want to look for, this is how I'll do it. Because like even for this video, when I was trying to look for like, oh, would this be a good video reference to use, there's a specific pose that I'm trying to look for, and I just don't really know where it is, but I don't want to miss it in case that like I end up like skipping it. So instead of kind of just like hovering over the timeline like this and trying to hopefully find the pose or the scene that the pose is in, I will click and drag up the timeline and scrub through it like this. So this way you can scrub through it a little bit more meticulously. I don't know. I also don't know if that's a word. But you can zoom in a little bit more closely into the timeline and scrub through it this way. So instead of clicking and dragging the red timeline, you just click the part down here. So this is also how I scrub through. So both really useful ways, and oh, also you just click the screen and it'll like load there, I guess. But yeah, both really useful tools that I use for getting like good reference videos or reference photos, and how I use videos to kind of scrub through in this way. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Yeah, so I guess we'll get drawing then. So let's find a pose that I want to do. This one's actually kind of cool. But I don't know if we should start off like easy. Obviously, I'll also just like play the video in general just to see like if there's one that I like. Here, you know, maybe we could start off with something like the classic Spider-Man pose. I don't know. So is that classic? I don't know. That's a little bit of a weird angle. We can do something, or maybe earlier. I don't know. It's a little bit hard because he's moving so much. That's kind of a cool pose. Maybe we'll do that. We'll do this one. You know what? I'll just screenshot it so it's a little bit easier. So we'll do a little bit of a warm-up first. Kind of put this here so we can do some studying together. And before we do the actual study, I guess I'll go over how I personally approach figure drawing, or how I kind of approach, kind of analyzing figures for poses. Because I guess like each one of us instructors have a slightly different way of approaching figure drawing. I was kind of actually saying this to my class, where it's just that we all for sure follow somewhat of a version of the GSL method, which is kind of what Faye has talked about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Faye has gone over how she does figure drawings in the last stream. So if you want to check that out, I believe it's last Monday's stream. Faye did a figure drawing session, and she has her way of doing it, and she calls it the GSL method. And I would say like all of us instructors here kind of follow along with a somewhat similar approach, but we might just kind of use it a little bit differently. So this is kind of how I like to kind of warm up and break down references and images. So once I've gotten the reference and the image, to kind of warm up a little bit, also hello Kevin, glad you're able to join us, I will kind of just screenshot the pose from the video reference. I will lower the opacity, and I'm going to make a layer on top of it. And oh, also by the way, if you didn't know, I'm using Krita for today's stream, and I would say like for most of the stream I use Krita pretty much all the time. So if you have any questions about Krita, let me know. I will try to do my best to answer it. But yeah, so I'm gonna lower the opacity, and what I like to do is I like to look for the torso as much as I can. Now, if also adjust the opacity to how much you need it. So if some people like it really light, some people like it really high. As long as you can kind of see your drawing, but the reference underneath doesn't influence your observations, that's kind of where I put it in terms of like the sweet spot. But every image is going to be different due to the quality of the image, how blurry the image is, and all that kind of stuff. But with that being said, I like to look for the torso box. So before kind of marking the top, I usually like to mark out the top. But in this case, because it's so dynamic, I think it's really cool, or what would be really useful is to try to look for, oh, let's go with this, yeah. I try to look for this kind of, the side, like this stretch is really nice. This is kind of almost like the main gesture line. So if you kind of go back and watch Faye's video, I'm pretty sure she talks about like the gesture line. That's what the G part stands for. Gesture line can also be phrased as like the action line, and essentially the action and the gesture line tries to summarize the whole entire pose with one line. So in this case, I would put it as kind of like this. It's this really big C curve. And this really captures a nice dynamic action, and also really communicates how kind of Tobey Maguire or Spider-Man is like really just like throwing himself out there, kind of like really trying to push the momentum forward as much as he can as he's swinging. So this line over here, this is like the main gesture line or the main action line, and you can kind of see it replicated around like the torso. So maybe I'll draw the action line, but I'll draw it in like orange. So this here, the torso, is also kind of mimicking that, and I'm gonna keep an eye on that and have like the torso kind of follow suit with how the rest of the gesture line is moving as well. So now I got the front, I'm gonna mark also the back, and I like to use straight lines to mark it. And once I get somewhere around like the butt, and for the front line somewhere around like maybe right above the crotch area, that's where I like to cut it off. So I'm gonna, you know what, just to simplify it, we'll cut it off like that. And for the upper area, I like to cut off the torso box right at the shoulder. So this one is a little bit hard to see, but the other side of the shoulder is somewhere around here. And if you're like not too sure how I came to that conclusion, you can kind of, here, let me bring the opacity back up. It's this little bump here is the muscle from our scapula. So the muscle bump right here and the muscle bump right here, that is from like the scapula. It's from the arms kind of pushing backwards. So if you kind of raise your arms up and you have your elbows pointing forwards, and then you have pull your elbows to the side and have both your arms elbows push or pointing outwards while they're raised, this is kind of flexing and kind of pushing your scapula and your back muscle and kind of like grouping them and bunching them up around the back area. So that's why I can kind of tell that this is where the right shoulder is, or where his right shoulder roughly is. So somewhere here. And then his left shoulder is somewhere around here. So when I simplify it, oops. So when I simplify it and when I mark it, I'm gonna mark the torso kind of like here. Something like that. Now it's a little bit tight, but this is kind of like the different planes and changes. So here's one, here's one, here's one, This one is really, really subtle, and it's really, really close because of how tight it is to, or how far away it is. So this is another angle change, and an angle change, and an angle change. So I'm showing you guys all this so you can kind of see like where we're making the torso box. And so if I take away the reference, this is kind of what it looks like, and it still maintains that sense of like dynamic and motion and rhythm in the drawing. So even in our deconstruction and our analysis, we can still see kind of like that movement, that bend, that like throwing the chest forward when Spider-Man is like swinging. The next thing I look at when trying to deconstruct poses is I want to place out roughly where the shoulder is. So this is kind of where the shoulder is. And then instead of drawing like the cylinders for the arms, so you guys might have seen this a lot where people will draw like the person, and they'll draw the torso, the chest box, and then they'll draw like the arm, and then you'll see like the cylinder for the arm, and then another circle for the elbow maybe, and then the forearm, and then the hand. Now, when you see this though, the problem with this kind of diagram or breakdown is that you don't see the order of how someone drew this. So for me, I actually don't like to draw the cylinders of the forearm and the upper arm first. I actually like to save that for the end, or save that till a little bit later. What I think is more important to draw and kind of mark it down is mark where the shoulder is going to be. So we got that down. But the next part is, instead of drawing the cylinder or even just a rectangle, even just a plain rectangle is actually pretty good already. Instead of drawing the rectangle or the cylinder for the forearm and the upper arm, I'm actually going to jump right to the elbow and try to look for the middle of the elbow. So I'm not looking at the tip of the elbow. I'm not trying to look for here. I'm actually trying to look for like the core center of the elbow. So I'm going to draw a trajectory line. That kind of helps me line up where the arm is going. And then I like to look for the middle of the wrist, and that tells me where the forearm is going. So now that I know where all my limbs are heading in and the trajectory of where they're going, I can then build the forearm and the upper arm muscle, or the cylinders, or the rectangles. So where you place the joint, also kind of improvise a little bit. Look at where like the center line, like this connection line is, and how it kind of sits. It should feel like it sits in between the thickness of the arm. So you'll notice that if you watched it, I moved the elbow joint up a little bit because I was like, oh, it would actually, like, it doesn't really follow the shape of the forearm. So if I were to map out where the center line is in the forearm, it wasn't really quite lining up, so I moved it up a little bit more. And then with the hand, so all of you guys, like for most artists, hands are like a pain in the butt. Like nobody likes to draw them. Well, the great thing is, when it comes to figure drawing, you actually don't have to draw the hand in full detail. When you're analyzing a pose or analyzing a video reference, especially if it's a dynamic motion in a video reference, there's a high probability that the motion is going to be slightly blurred, and you're not going to be able to make out the full detail. So instead of trying to be so fixated on all the tiny little bits of details, try to focus more on the shape. So based on this, I can kind of see that this is the glove shape that the hand is making. So maybe I'll draw this in the magenta color. I can kind of see the glove shape that it's there. And I'm essentially kind of outlining the shape of the hand. And I'm going to also mark off where I think the knuckles are. Now, maybe I made it a little bit too big, so we're going to just taper it down a little bit. Oh, hello. Also, I saw someone say, like, can you make a Daredevil next? I mean, I guess we could, if we have time. The focus for today is mostly on Spider-Man and some baseball poses and some free solo climbing poses. But, you know, speaking of Daredevil, I'm actually going through it again and re-watching them since Disney released, like, a new season of Daredevil. Oh, hello. Oh, your name is a little bit hard. I'm just gonna call you YY, because I don't think I can, there's too many numbers. But glad you're able to join us, and welcome. Yeah. yeah, I'm kind of showing you guys how I personally deconstruct poses. So again, just to lower the opacity so you guys can kind of see how the drawing is going. This is how the deconstruction is going so far. And here, let's go add the rectangles for the arm. So this is just like a really simple way, and if anybody is like thinking about like how to break it down, hopefully this is like a much more simplified breakdown of it. The torso might be honestly the hardest part or the trickiest part to kind of nail down at first if you've never done it like this, but you're essentially looking for the outside of the body. You're looking for where it's stretching, and you're looking for, as I like to put it, you're looking for the stretch and you're looking for the pinch. So I'll write it here, stretch and the pinch. I know that it's a little bit hard to read against the blue sky, but this is what you're trying to look for, the stretch and the pinch. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the legs. I'm going to put the joint for where the legs are. I'm just going to estimate, kind of guess it. And then same thing with the knee. Instead of putting it right at the point of the knee, we're not going to do that. Don't do that. We are going to put it around here, the center of the knee. And same thing here with the knee. We're going to put it right here. The reason why, again, is because you want it to line up so that it can match the center line of like the leg. So instead of focusing on like muscles, which is I guess kind of interesting because we're all showing you different approaches. So Saturday, Jessie showed you how she does anatomy. Faye last week on Monday showed you how she does figure drawing. And then this stream, I'm showing you how I do figure drawing. And you'll kind of notice that everybody has a slightly different approach to it. And that's kind of like the beauty of figure drawing, is that everybody is going to have their own comfort zone and approach and kind of methodology and philosophy on how to best approach figure drawing for themselves. And that's kind of what I encourage all of you guys to do if you ever do figure drawing, is to try to find what works best for you and try to take different notes and try to take different techniques and advices from different people and see which one fits your approach and style the best. But the other thing I also say is to not necessarily throw out the ones that don't work for you. So if you feel like you try out a technique and it just doesn't work for you, don't necessarily throw it out completely, because maybe it was just a technique or an approach that was a little bit too advanced for where you currently are. Yeah, Daredevil is not bad. Rewatching it is pretty good. I really like the second season. I think second season is like just so good. Oh, second season is coming out this. Oh, is it coming out this March? Okay, I feel like I should be able to catch up. Unfortunately with Daredevil, you can't just go through the whole thing all at once. I feel like you have to watch seasons 1 and then 2, and then you have to go into Defenders, and then you can jump into season 3. So it's unfortunately like you can't just like beeline right through the series. And then with the feet, same thing. Well, going back to the drawing, with the feet, the same thing. We're not gonna draw the details of it. Luckily, Spider-Man's wearing kind of slippers looking, or like sock shape kind of coverings for the feet. So we don't have to worry about details, but the mentality is the same. We're not trying to focus on details, but mostly just on the shape. So I like to use kind of either like this triangle shape or almost like a trapezoid boxy type of a shape. And then same thing, just gonna use this orange to kind of map out the shape. So on the arm, I'm showing you how it would look like if you just want to box it out with boxes and rectangles. On the legs, I'm gonna show you how it might look like if you want to box out or block out the shape of the legs using cylinders. And my kind of I guess advice when it comes to cylinders on the limbs is to keep it simple, keep it very straightforward. You don't have to make super like realistic and perfectly fitted and locked in cylinders, as long as it kind of conveys the sense of angle and dimensions that the leg might have. So I'm gonna do this, and you'll notice one thing too is that I'm going through the legs or like the muscles. So I'm not necessarily trying to perfectly fit the cylinders inside of the pose, but instead I'm just trying to capture the angle. Because something that Jess mentioned a little bit beforehand, which is that you can turn this into whatever style that you want to. And that's kind of like the main goal of video references, is that sometimes the best references, they're not going to look or have the same body shape or outfit or costume that is the same as your character. So if you're drawing like a cat character and you're using Spider-Man as a reference, well, the proportions are going to be very different. The shapes and the body size is going to be very different. So what I'm trying to show you here is like, how can we deconstruct and simplify, or quote-unquote simplify, so that we kind of break away from it looking like Spider-Man, but instead we get more of like a skeletal framework of what the pose is doing. What are all the important ingredients that we need in the pose to get the pose that we need? So I'm just gonna also mark off the head. For the head, feel free to use kind of like a box shape as well. So if we take away the reference, this is what it looks like. Now it's gonna look a little funny. It's gonna look a little bit kind of like goofy maybe, but yeah. His outfit, so he was easier to draw and weird. No, wait, what? Interesting. Oh, is it? The artist chose to give him this outfit so he's easier to draw in weird angles. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I might change it a little bit later. But yeah, this is what a pose. Look, already feel my back pain. Yeah. But so this is what we really are trying to look for and kind of extract, is what I like to say, from any kind of video references or poses. The costuming, the details like the facial features, the fingers, none of that really matters. It's really more of like, what is the main pose and how can we do that? So I'm gonna do it for one more. Maybe we'll do the baseball one with Guerrero, since talked about it so much. Let me see where it is. I wanted to get the one where he's like, let's do this. I have it playing on my other screen. Let's get one where he just hit it. That's a pretty good one. It's gonna be kind of tiny though. And this is also to show you, sometimes the video references, they're not going to be the cleanest, but the pose is so much nicer to study from. So the difference between having like still photos and having kind of video references is that video references, you are going to have the problem of potentially having a very low quality image. The pose might be also a little smeared and blurry because of the motion. So that's why like you kind of have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt when it comes to like using and extracting video references, because the quality is just not always going to be the best. So learning how to extract information and how to deconstruct and simplify poses is a very useful skill, one that will carry you throughout whatever it is that you draw, even if you're using still photos and still image references. And also, hello Arunya. Hey, this is one of our instructors. Everybody say hi to Arunya. It can be pretty blurry, yeah. It can definitely be very blurry. Also, like, this was like such a small section for Guerrero from the Blue Jays team. This was such a small little section because it's like such a small part of the video. So screenshotting it is not going to be the clearest. But let's do a deconstruction of Guerrero. This one, because we already went through it with Spider-Man, I'll try not to talk too much, but we'll do the same thing. So I'm going to try to look for the main gesture or the main action line of this. And you can do it exactly like how I'm doing it too. So this is like really good for anybody who's more on the beginner side, because you're not necessarily doing an observational study or observational drawing. An observational drawing is when you have the reference on the side and you try to copy it as best as you can. Whoops. And you try to copy it as best as you can on the side. The problem with this is that if you're on the beginner, you might make some mistakes, some things might not look that great, and then you realize that you messed up, and then you have to like start all over, and you have to balance both learning something technical like anatomy and structure, but then you're also practicing how to draw as well. So having this approach where you just grab the image and you trace on top of it is a very kind of beginner friendly way that eases you into good habits to build up when you're drawing. Glad to sit in on this one. Those videos can be hard since they're in movement and sometimes screenshots. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you guys feel free to try to do this on your own. Maybe you know what? I'll put the links to the videos on the stream chat. So if any of you guys really want to follow along, you can. So this one, I believe, is the Blue Jay one. This one here is the Spider-Man one. So this is the Spider-Man one, and then this one is the Free Solo one. So if any of you guys want to follow along or find your own poses from these videos, feel free to do so. It'll be kind of cool. And if you guys are doing it, feel free to share them. YouTube has this new feature now where you can share images on the community posting. Although I find that it's a little bit finicky because sometimes it's not in the order of when people post it. So, you know, it might be a little bit tricky. But if you do want us to be able to see this, the best place to put it is our Discord. So since this is in line with our monthly theme, if you follow along and you do these exercises with us, feel free to drop your drawings and your studies in the Art Challenge channel in our Discord, and we'll see it, and who knows, maybe we'll give you a shout out since it's you kind of followed along on our stream, and it'll be really cool to see how your deconstructions and how your analysis worked or turned out. Okay, so speaking of deconstructing, I'm gonna find the gesture line. And I guess going over like gesture lines, what I like to look for sometimes is kind of roughly the top of the head and then where the feet are. So this pose is great because like his feet are together, or at least in this angle, the feet are together, and it creates such a clean kind of line here. And what works too in our favor is we can also see kind of like the buttons of his shirt. We can also see like this kind of like where his legs are split over here. So it gives us a very clean track for where the gesture line could be. So I think that in itself really helps to kind of capture the gesture line. So this is really cool. And now you might be like, oh, what if I wanted to have the gesture line be kind of, let's say, gesture line 1. What if you're like, oh, well, Josh, what about the baseball bat? I actually think this is a really cool gesture line. Well, guess what? That actually can also be another gesture line. So this could be gesture line 2. But I would say stick to one or the other. Don't try to use both of them, because the gesture line should kind of almost be like an impression, a summary of how you are viewing the pose. So in my opinion, I personally prefer gesture line 1 a little bit more. So I'm going to use this one to guide my drawings a little bit. So going back to how to deconstruct this, let me try to use the same colors. Okay, I'm going to use magenta for the torso. So going back to this one, I can see where the shoulder, actually, let's not use the shoulders. Let's use the lean. So now that we have the gesture line here, I now know that the torso should relatively follow the gesture line. Oh, also one thing to clear up about the gesture line. The gesture line does not need to stick or follow the spine or the sternum, so your chest plate. So A lot of people, the first biggest misconception that a lot of people make, or mistake that they make when it comes to gesture line, myself included, because no one explained this to me, funny enough. When I got to university, it was my first time doing figure drawing, and we just kind of, the model came in and sat down and we started drawing them. There was no lesson, there was no breakdown on how to do figure drawings, and I would just like look over to see like what people are doing, and there's like, oh, people do this big sweeping lines, like, oh, okay, I guess this is how you do figure drawing. So no one explained what it was, and I would see photos of figure drawings, and there would always be this line going through the body, and because no one explained it to me, I always thought that that center line represented the spine, or where the sternum was, and the center of the figure going down completely down the figure. That's not what the gesture line or the action line should be. It can, but it doesn't have to be. So what this line is, it's really trying to summarize the overall pose. So that's why I like to look for where the top of the head is and the feet. And it just so happens that the buttons of the shirt and the divide between the legs creates a nice flow from the head to the feet. But it's not me trying to map out the spine or the sternum or the perfect middle of the body. Just to clarify that, because that's kind of, I think, the biggest mistake, or the misconception that a lot of people kind of make the first time they do figure drawing. And again, myself included, so we're all on the same boat. The line of action really is to just capture how the body is moving. So just keep it simple, keep it one simple line. Sometimes it'll be a C curve, a really sharp C curve, and sometimes it can be an S curve. In this case, we are doing a C curve type of a gesture line, but it's a little bit more, not as curvy. It's a little bit kind of toned down. So now that we have this broken down, I will try to get the same motion and action in the torso. So remember, I didn't start off with the shoulders or the waist. I like to look for where the body is, remember, stretching, and where it's pinching. So in this case, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll take away this line over here, so it's not as distracting. Or we'll make it like a different color. Yeah, we'll make it a different color. So gesture line 2, just ignore gesture line 2. We don't really, we're not really relying on that one. Okay, so I'm gonna look for the pinch, and you're basically comparing both sides. You kind of are going like, okay, right side and left side, which one is stretching and which side is pinching. So stretching, it should be a nice smooth stretch all the way through. Whereas this one, you can see there's a plane change, there's an angle change. So the right side is the one that's stretching, and we're gonna kind of follow through. Oops. We're gonna follow through all the way. And always kind of go further than you need to go. So you might be like, oh, Josh, you went all the way to the legs. That's not the torso. Those are the legs. So don't worry about that. Always draw through what it is that you intend to capture. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And you can do the same thing. Draw through what it is that you intend to draw. So I'm drawing all the way starting from the head through into the legs. And the reason why we do this is because it creates a nice cleaner line and a much smoother trajectory. Whereas if you try to lock in your lines from here to here, it'll be a little stiffer. Sometimes you might end it at the wrong spot or start it at the wrong spot. So it's always a good idea to practice drawing through your objects so you get a nice, clean, smooth line. And then we're going to change the trajectory and look at how the hips are kind of moving, kind of like here. So I'm going to start a little bit higher than the waist, and I'm going to go all the way to maybe like the half of the leg. So here. So this gives us our pinch. So we have our stretch going this way. Stretch. And then we have our pinch. Okay, so it's the same thing that's kind of happening. Oh, I guess I can kind of specify where this pose is if anybody really wants to follow exactly. This is on the 9:38 mark. So maybe I'll write that down in the chat too. For the baseball video, if anybody is interested, was it 9:38? Did I say 9:38? 9:38, yes, 9:38. 9:38 is the timestamp on the video that I uploaded. So if anybody is just joining us, if you scroll up the chat a little bit, the first video that is linked by me is the baseball video that we're kind of studying and following along with. Can this be carried over to, say, like animal drawings? Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this can definitely be carried into animal drawings. The construction might be a little bit different, but you're still mapping out things like the shape of the torso. Like if you're drawing a dog, it would be like the shape of like the head, but the head might be a little bit more of a longer rectangle, and the body is going to be a longer rectangle. There might be not as much stretch and pinch in the torso, but you're essentially, the whole goal of art from the very beginning, if you ever have, I don't know how it was for you guys, but when I was a kid, my mom bought me this like book on how to draw animals, and it was like, okay, you're going to start off with a circle, and then you build the head, and then for the body start with a rectangle. And it never made sense to me as to why that's done, but the reason why we use shapes is because simplifying images is like the real main goal of drawing, or at least how to learn how to draw. So it's kind of like learning scales and the measures and times. When you learn how to play music, you have to learn how to read notes, how to learn how to read score sheets. So like learning what timing is and the measures and the bars, treble clef, bass clef, like learning all that stuff is very fundamental. And drawing is the same thing. It's learning how to observe something and deconstruct what it is that you're looking at. Yeah, it's always like super cool seeing it, because you're almost getting a little peek behind the scenes on like how someone is almost like in their brain, how they're analyzing it, what it is that they're seeing. And as you get better and better, you don't have to rely on those shapes as much anymore. Okay, so going back to our drawing here, same thing with Spider-Man. I'm gonna let's start with the bottom. I'm gonna kind of mark it a little bit above the crotch area. And if you're like, oh, I don't know where the bottom of the crotch area is, there's a few context clues for us here. We have the belt, and we have a little bit of like this shadow forming right here. So what that tells me is that the area right above the crotch, or like the bottom of the pelvis, is gonna be somewhere here. So we're gonna cut it off around here. And then the shoulder, we're gonna have to kind of might have to cheat a little bit. So I'm gonna follow the shoulder up to its highest point, which is up here, and I'm gonna look at where the other shoulder is, and it's around here. So hopefully this is showing you I'm kind of mapping out the different angles and points of plane changes that are happening in the torso. So now we're gonna connect the two, and this gives us our torso. So if you take away the reference, this is the torso that we're getting. And if you want to clean up the drawing a little bit, you can. Feel free to kind of erase these extra marks that we drew through. So if it's getting a little bit busy or a little bit complicated, feel free to erase them and take them away. So I'm going to take away GSL or GL2, because we don't really need that anymore. Okay, so this is kind of like the drawing. Let's see. While we don't specifically have a marker tutorial, there's a playlist of all traditional art tutorials. Oh, nice. Yeah. Even complex shapes are made of simple shapes. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the summary of it. Yeah, markers, unfortunately, I am not too much of a marker expert. I have markers, but I use them in the simplest way ever, which is just to lay down a flat color. Question is, let's see. Question is, pinch and stretch the same if we use GL2. Oh, Actually, that's a good point. Yeah. So in GL2, maybe, you know what? Let me duplicate this. That's a good question, Kevin. Wow. Let's see. Let's move this guy down. So let's say, what if we went for GL2, which would be the gesture line or action line 2, which I was like, oh, it's this one. Let's put this here. Is this one right here. So instead of following the top of the head to the foot, I want to have the gesture line start at the bat down to the foot. And the question that Kevin brought up, which I think is a really valid, good question, is because this one's not as obvious to spot, but the stretch and the pinch would be here. It is just over on the other side. And now this is why I don't want to use the bat as the gesture line or action line, is because the stretch is on this side and the pinch is on this side. So this is where the pinch would be. And this is where the stretch would be. Did I spell stretch? Okay, I spelled it right. I guess the one thing that you can kind of use for this one to your advantage is the way you draw the body. This gets into the more complex side, but like the way you kind of break down the body and how you exaggerate it can be based on like this kind of breakdown. So like how you draw the pose, you really want to emphasize the overall stretch from the bat. So that basically means that the focus of your action is the bat and not the person itself. Whereas I would say that if you are doing this kind of gesture line, the focus is more on the pose and the figure, and the bat is a counterweight. The bat ends up becoming more of like something to counterbalance the pose. Whereas if I want to have the gesture line be here and it's the bat is the focus and the primary focal point, and everything else around it is trying to emphasize how high the bat is moving. So I guess that's kind of how I would use it. But sometimes these questions are more like, I always love to think about deconstructing and figure drawing kind of like hypothesis. So if you guys have ever done like science experiments before, you guys know when you make a science report, you have to start off with a hypothesis, then you have to kind of test it out, and then you come up with a conclusion, and then you reapproach your hypothesis and you write a refined hypothesis. So drawing is kind of like the same thing. Even though I'm kind of saying that like the bat is kind of moving in this way, that is my hypothesis of how I would use it to guide my drawing. But until I actually draw it, there's a lot of kind of improvisations and changes that is happening as I'm drawing. But when I use a gesture line, I'm using it to guide how I'm drawing the figure. A cool foreshortened bat illustration, I might use GL1. Yeah, I guess in a way, yeah, you could treat it like that, yeah. That's a good point. I think that's definitely a good kind of a good use of it if you were to use that. Okay, so what was I gonna do? Oh right, the arm. Okay, so now that we have the torso broken down, I'm gonna do the arms now. Again, gonna map out where the shoulder is in the center of the shoulder. Then I'm gonna look for where the center of the elbow is, and again, trajectory line, and look for the wrist, and trajectory line, and do the same thing. Now we can't really see the other elbow, but you know, the other elbow is kind of hidden behind. And let me see, lowered the opacity too much. Okay, the other elbow looks like it's around here. So remember, I'm kind of looking at where the center of the forearm would be and where the center of the upper arm would be. and that kind of tells me where the center core of the elbow is. So if you have a little bit of trouble figuring out where the elbow is, and you kind of remember me going like, it's not at the point of the elbow, it's in the middle, push it a little bit more into the middle. A good way of thinking about where to put it is the elbow should kind of line up with where the center of your forearm is and where the center of your upper arm is. And again, I'm gonna deconstruct the hands, and let me switch the colors. Same thing, not gonna draw the details of the hands, but more of like the shape of it. Now I can't really see it because, again, remember, it's a little bit blurry, but I feel like this is a good enough amount of information. And then we're gonna draw the arm. Now I'm gonna draw it so that we can have a different kind of breakdown for it, because remember, in the first one for Spider-Man, I just drew a more simplified forearm and upper arm. So for this one, I'll show you guys how I would draw a more three-dimensional arm. And same thing, let's see, this one is kind of, I would say it's kind of leaning towards us. So here's the kind of like the trick for cylinders for forearms and upper arms, is that it doesn't really matter how accurate you draw the cylinders or like the ellipses for the cylinder. It's more about how open and how big you make the cylinder. So you can have a cylinder that is like this. Like, you can make it very wonky. Let's say we drew a cylinder like this, and then we kind of draw it like that. Well, guess what? Even though this looks kind of wonky, it looks kind of bad, this is totally going to work on your figure drawing, because it's so small, because it's so kind of minuscule in terms of like the grand scheme of things. It doesn't really matter how well you draw the ellipse. And then if I draw it bigger, and I draw another one, and I just copy the curve that I have here onto here, I make it look more like a cylinder. So it's really more about how big you make the cylinder. Oops. Let's draw like, it's more about how big you make the diameter of the ellipse rather than how accurate you draw it. Because you can see here, it's so small. In the grand scheme of things, it's so tiny that it doesn't really matter too much. You're really just trying to convey and communicate to yourself how you want the arm to be angled. So when you look back at this drawing, you can kind of tell yourself how the arm is angled. So it's not so much about like how accurate or how like perfectly drawn the cylinder is. It's more about like afterwards, when you look at this, can you kind of like rebuild the pose with the information that you have. And then I realized that my brightness is not up high enough to see the lines clearly. Oh, well, glad that you found the problem, Jess. Okay, and then this arm in the back, it is actually not, we don't really see too much of it, so it's gonna be just a flat one. And then again, I'll just show you like the flat version of how to draw the legs. Again, we'll put the joint like here, put the elbow, like the knee, like here, and then we'll put like the ankle here, same thing, leg, and a little bit hard to see. Oh, okay, I think this is the other leg. A little bit hard to see what the other legs are doing, but oh yeah. And then for the legs, I'll do it in the simple version. So this is the version where you don't have to worry about like the cylinders and the perspective of it. But what I would just kind of focus on is like making sure that your limbs, one is wider and one is more narrow. Harder angles to see, yeah. Again, same thing like with Spider-Man. I'm not trying to, let me erase that. I'm not trying to perfectly fit it inside of the leg. I'm really just trying to make sure that I can kind of map it out and block it in so that when I observe this, I can see what it is that I'm drawing. And then the legs, again, same thing. Just simple triangle shape, kind of like a trapezoid a little bit. Oops. A little bit like a trapezoid. And okay, and then the head. So the head, I personally like this approach when drawing a heads, is to not draw it like a circle, but more draw it as like a rectangle. And I like to kind of put the rectangle to align with like the face, so something like that maybe. So if we take away the reference, this is what it looks like. Guerrero's a pretty big guy. He's a little bit of like a heavier, wider guy, so this is what it's going to look like. Now you can kind of see from these deconstructions that they're not going to look the most flattering. It's not going to look like super cool because believe it or not, realistic human proportions are a little... We don't have quote unquote what we call the ideal proportions. Usually our bodies maybe a little bit longer, so we have a longer torso and then shorter legs, which makes us look kind of a little bit stockier. Some people might have really short torsos and really long legs, and some people will be like, oh, that gives me like carrot looking like legs or toothpicks for legs. So real people, our proportions are actually a little bit more quote unquote what we say not as idealized as kind of like the heroic proportions. So heroic proportions would be people that you see on like comic books or like maybe like illustrations or just even like model poses. When we draw models, sometimes we like to beautify them a little bit, so we give them kind of like the perfect proportions for like the torso, and it's perfectly balanced by legs that are long but not too long. So that's, if you guys have ever looked through like Loomis's art books before and he breaks down the proportions, you'll notice that he kind of calls it the hero proportions, which is 8 heads tall. So a lot of kind of like Batman, Superman are drawn with the hero's proportions, which kind of like has a perfect balance between the torso and the legs, whereas a real person, we're usually a little bit more lopsided, let's just say. So when you do mannequin breakdowns like this, if you've never done these before and then you're like, oh, I feel like I traced it perfectly, you know, like, look at this, wow, I followed the picture and the pose perfectly, and then you take away the reference and you're like, why does that look weird? That doesn't look that doesn't look right. I traced it perfectly though. Why does it look odd? And that's just because what you're seeing is like realistic human proportions, and realistic human proportions just aren't as, what I like to say, beautified as we are kind of more familiar with seeing. Yeah, fashion design uses a lot of much more longer legs and everything. Low carrot. Yeah, that's... So I watch sometimes a lot of... I don't want to say fashion YouTube videos, but I've been watching a lot of like jean videos, and sometimes the reason why I guess like some people don't like skinny jeans as much is some people like to go like, oh, it makes my legs look like carrots. So I think that's why people are leaning more back into like straight legs or wider legs, because it's just, one, it's trending, but I think like skinnier jeans are also just kind of skinny jeans make people's legs look like carrots, which I'm like, oh, is that a thing? People don't like their legs looking like carrots? I don't know, I guess. We get what you mean. Nice. Like how Greek proportions are ideal for yeah, kind of like that. It's definitely, for sure, it's the Greek proportions. Yeah, Josh loves jeans, new lures. I know, jeans and shoes. It's just the lower leg, the lower half of the body. That's my thing. It's just pants and shoes, nothing on the upper body. Yeah. Who cares about drawing faces or like the body? It's just pants and shoes. That's all we need. Great. Oh my goodness, Ben. Yo, I feel like that's such a minefield now but that's funny. I like it. Watching how fashion designers draw their designs is very interesting, to be honest. Long legs and little torsos. Yeah. No shirts got it. No shirts got it. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We have about like 45 minutes. So I think, you know what? Let's do a little bit of these were just kind of to show you how I would deconstruct a pose, but let's use Guerrero's pose here. Let's draw Spider-Man swinging a bat. I think that'd be kind of fun. So now that we have, and I'll show you like how I would use this deconstruction. So let's duplicate it, and let's move this. Let's take these away. We don't need these anymore. And let's make it a little bit bigger. Now for Spider-Man, kind of like what I was talking about, Spider-Man does have ideal proportions. So this is our observation. Let's kind of write that. This was our observation slash breakdown, or let's call it deconstruction. I like calling it that. Deconstruction. Means having interesting interests. Honestly, I find the clothing, like, okay, you know what? Sure, I'm into jeans. You know, let's just get it out there. I like it. I like jeans. I think jeans, like, when I dived into it, I was like, dang, this is like a fascinating hobby. That is so. It's a very interesting thing. But after getting into it, I like the fashion industry is also, it's so interesting. Like the clothing industry and how it works, and like the history of clothes and how we've kind of arrived to where we're at now in terms of clothing is very interesting. I think it's kind of neat. Okay, by the way, getting back into it, let's make a new breakdown. So this was our first step. Let's call this is number 1. Number 2 is this is our reinterpretation. So I call this the reinterpretation phase. Kind of going back to what Jess kind of brought up near the beginning of this day of the stream, where an artist is able to take kind of like a pose and tweak it to match their own style. So this is where the reinterpretation part comes in. Reinterpretation. I'm hoping I spelled that right. Forgive me if I did not. I feel like I'm missing a T. Let me see. Interpretation. Oh, I'm not. Okay, I'm not missing a T. I thought I was missing a T. Reinterpretation. Okay. I don't know. Okay, so this is the part where we take what we drew and we want to use the essence, the essential parts of what we see here. So we can start off with the same thing. We can go back and put in like a gesture line. Oh, also I realized I never drew the bat. We can add the bat in afterwards. So we can put in the gesture line. Let's maybe push it a little bit more. We can kind of, so what I'm looking at is like the angle and the curve in which like this gesture line is mapped out. So let's see. Let's put it more like this. Let's accentuate it and exaggerate it just like a little bit. Not really that much of an exaggeration, but just a little bit. And honestly, you know, going back to jeans, I never even knew jeans would be a hobby. The first time I heard about jeans being a hobby was from The Bear. I don't know if anybody's watched the show called The Bear, but it's a show about like a chef who takes over his brother's kind of sandwich shop, I guess. But he's like a great chef, and he wants to make like the best sandwich shop in, I think it's Chicago. But he's really ambitious, and he's really like, everything is like fast paced and everything's really aggressive. But he has no money. So in order to pay off all the debt and pay off to manage the restaurant, he needed to sell his jeans. And I was like, jeans? And then if you watch like interviews and breakdowns, or not in breakdowns, but like interviews about like about the show, the writers and creators were like, we wanted to give crap, I forgot his name, but the character's name, the character, they're like, oh, we wanted to give him like an interesting hobby. He's a collector, but we're like, what is he collecting? What is something that he would collect that says something about his personality. And in the first episode, you see him like selling his jeans. He takes his jeans out of like the oven. He has them like stored away in like boxes. And I'm like, but at that point, all I knew about jeans was that like you buy them from Levi's, you buy them from Gap, you buy them from Walmart. Like, what's so special about jeans? And then only later on I found out that, oh no, there's this whole world about jeans and denim that is just insane. It is just like, oh, okay. It's like a whole new world about like just clothing that's just out there. But it's fascinating. Okay, so deconstructing, same thing. I think what I would do is, now that I got the gesture line, going back to the drawing, I know we had a little bit of a tangent on jeans, but let's just say we're going to push this pose. We're going to really exaggerate it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the torso, and remember, stretch and pinch. We want to remember that the stretch is on the kind of the right side of the pose, and the pinch is on the left side. Now, I know this looks and feels very, very obvious, but sometimes when we start drawing, we get tunnel visioned and we put blinders out and we kind of forget things that are very, very in your face and very obvious. So sometimes I find that it's very useful to just like write these out on our drawings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the torso and I'm going to lightly block in what I want the pose to be doing. Now, Spider-Man has a much more tapered and much slimmer and muscular physique. Actually, appropriately, right in front of me is actually the Spider-Verse art book. So I guess I could use this as a little bit of inspiration. If I get stuck on like how to draw Spider-Man, I can use this to draw Spider-Man. Although, I guess if I'm drawing like the Peter Parker that we do see, it's like not the chunkiest. He's a little bit of a chunkier Spider-Man. So it's a little bit different. So I'll use Miles as a bit of inspiration for me. But yeah, Miles is pretty lanky. So, you know, or maybe I'll just draw Miles. You know, who knows? Oh, also, if anybody is kind of like was into K-pop Demon Hunters, they released the art book. Unfortunately, the art book is not like, I think you can't buy it on like normal like you can't buy it from Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or Chapters if you're in Canada. You can only get it from a place called Gallery Nucleus. So I guess I'm putting it out there. If anybody of you want to buy the K-pop Demon Hunters art book, you can only get it at Gallery Nucleus, at least to my knowledge. It's a little bit expensive for Canada because of shipping, but it's pretty cheap on the base price, but it's the shipping that really like sends it. Okay, so either way, going back to it. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to still utilize the same kind of shapes and angles, but I'm pushing it a little bit. So I'm trying to match Spider-Man's physique, which is more narrow, more tapered, more lean, and I'm trying to match the same thing. And you can see that I'm still utilizing the same mentality and philosophy of it's stretched on one side and it's pinching on the other side. But I also noticed that his body is leaning way over. So when I'm drawing it, originally the torso was kind of balanced, and I realized like, oh, I can't have the torso be that balanced. I need it to lean more to the left. And then I'm gonna maybe block out like the head shape. Maybe we'll have it like here, and maybe we can even like push the shoulders a little bit. So I'm kind of treating this almost like a gesture drawing, where I'm like blocking it in very quickly, so I can get the overall proportions. So maybe something like that. We'll keep it very lanky. And what I like to do too is that instead of drawing, like cleaning up the arm first, is I want to map out where the hands are going to be. So sometimes I'll map out where the hand and look at like how it lines up with the head, so I know roughly where to put the hands, and then you build where the arms are afterwards. Now this pose itself is already quite exaggerated, so I don't know how much more I can really push it, but again, we'll do our best. Oh, also this is something that I didn't really quite notice, which is that the the hips, the legs are angled upwards, or like how, that's how I mapped it out. And we're gonna kind of like keep this part here. Let's kind of change it now. Physically, maybe this is not how you want to hit a baseball, but I don't know, it might add a little bit of personality to the pose. So I'm kind of adjusting and changing things as we're going. And let's see, where is the baseball bat? Actually, let's bring this in. We'll just minimize it. And just put it here. Use it as a reference guide. Why does he have a baseball? You know, he's playing with the people, you know? Spider-Man is a people's person. Oops. And here, we'll have it like all the way here. And even for something like this, it's also good to have like draw through the object, or draw through the hands, so that you know you draw it as best as you can capture it, so you're not kind of limited by like what you think it should be moving in, but you kind of really capture the proper space and dimensions that a bat might have. Okay, maybe something like that. Let's see, Spider-Man, let's kind of look at this. Let's see, Guerrero, where are you looking at? Kind of looks like he's looking this way. Okay, we're drawing Spider-Man, so let's kind of have the head be like here. You know, maybe we could do like a Spider-Man. You know, maybe that's a bit too complicated. I was gonna be like Spider-Man wearing a baseball helmet, but maybe that might be a bit much. Okay, let's put it like here. We're doing that. Okay, and then this is where you have a little bit of creative licensing, let's just say. So what this means is that you can kind of break away from what the pose is doing a little bit. So just because you got the deconstruction, you might kind of look at it and be like, okay, I've broken it down, I understand like where like the pose should be, how it should be done and all that. I have all like the necessary pieces to draw my character, but at the end of the day, it is the final drawing that you want to make sure it looks good, not that you captured it perfectly to the reference. So kind of like using the same kind of shapes, same poses here, but we're kind of trying to translate it to something new. Dang, it went to 100? Sheesh. that's new. I don't think it's like, I think it's that's rare for it to go all the way to 100. That's cool though. So let's see. Maybe we'll have, you know, Spider-Man's always has like very dynamic eye poses here. So let's give it like an interesting head shape. Well, let's follow Guerrero's head. Should make it a little bit shorter just to get that, the fact that he's looking up. just subbing in for baseball for some reason. Honestly, that's kind of what I love the most about comic book series or even like mangas, like when the artist draws characters doing very just kind of mundane things outside of what they would normally do. So instead of having them, I don't know, fight monsters or fight villains or whatever, they're just doing very mundane things. I don't know, there's something charming about just seeing larger than life characters doing stuff that the everyday average person is doing. I don't know. I guess it just makes the characters more relatable and it helps to build their personality a little bit more. Just start playing baseball. Yeah, yeah. And just get the shoulder in. I feel like this is a big part of it. So this is kind of like my rough, let's say. And the bat position, let's change this. Let's have the hand. So he's holding the bat, I think, more like this. Based on the drawing, it feels like this is what's kind of happening. And to make him more cut looking, I'm gonna add a little bit of these bumps here for like the muscles. And this is just the rough. So like down the road, probably gonna like, that's what the third section here is for. It's to kind of adjust and change clean up the pose a little bit. And let's see. Actually, the body doesn't turn that much, so let's put it like here. Let's lower the torso a bit. So this is like I'm trying to balance what what Guerrero is doing, but then also like what Spider-Man would maybe look like if he was doing the same thing. So there's a little bit of like improvisation, a little bit of kind of like changes here and there just to do it. Now, if you're following along or you're kind of like you want to try this out, you don't have to do Spider-Man. You can definitely do like a different character or a different pose even. But yeah, this is what I would so far kind of thinking what Spider-Man might look like while doing this. Let's raise up the torso a bit, maybe. Let's shift the legs. So sometimes what helps is looking at the alignment of things. So right here, I can kind of see that this is where the head is. And I'll drop an anchor line. So this is something that's very helpful that I do a lot when trying to capture poses, is pay attention to where the head is in relationship to the rest of the body. So if I really want to get this kind of momentum and this swing, what I'm noticing is like, oh, the body is like pushed way over. So let me see if I can push that even more. Like push the body way over and have it be more like here maybe. And I'm just kind of slowly chipping it in, slowly chipping away like the shapes and the forms of the body. I really want this like stretch, this contrast here in the arm. So like I think the best way of doing that is for sure kind of like this angle right over here. So don't really want that. Also, what is Spider-Man's like? He has like a... Does he have a diaper? I can't remember if he has like the diaper shape for his costume, or if he doesn't. I don't know. between the arm, break up the pose. Yeah, over here. Yeah, that's a nice little thing to kind of make sure I retain as well. Yeah, nice catch. Yeah, let's kind of bring it here maybe. Now Guerrero is wearing like armor and everything, so whenever you're using video references in this way, don't get too caught up by all the details, because remember, the costuming might be different, the proportions might be different, so it's hard to necessarily be like, oh well, like if it looks odd and someone goes like, oh, it looks a little bit odd, maybe like the arm is not shaped that way, or maybe it's not that big, and then you show the people like the reference, and then they go like, yeah, the arm doesn't bend that way, and it's like, okay, but in the reference, that's what I see this bump. Keep in mind that the bump there might be different because the person is just either the physique is different, or they're wearing clothes that changes the look of it a little bit. Like, really keep in mind that the reference, you're not trying, the goal is not to try to draw out a one-to-one replica. You're utilizing what the person is doing and all like the necessary information, like again, remember where it's stretching, where the pinch is happening, and also the balance. So looking at the head and where it kind of lands, and paying attention to like how you can use those to your advantage to build the pose. So this is kind of like the main takeaway of how to do this. So I noticed like the foot is more closer to the center. So I'm like, okay, let me reposition the foot so it matches that kind of centering of the pose. And then let's say this one, let's kind of taper it in a little bit more. Let's push it. And now I can't see how the other foot kind of lines up or how it's set up on the other side. So I'm gonna have to use a little bit of like kind of just improvisation and guessing to kind of go like, okay, it's probably like here, maybe something like that. And I'm just gonna have to make sure that they line up with one another. So in this case, I might make the foot just a little bit longer, just so that it matches the pose a bit more. So hopefully this makes a little bit of sense for you guys who are watching. This is a little bit of like the trickier part for sure. It takes a little bit of practice. I'm gonna shrink the head just because I was like, oh, I feel like his head was getting maybe a little bit too big, or might reposition it just so it matches the pose a little bit better. So yeah, there we go. I think this is looking much closer to how Spider-Man might look. I realized like, oh wait, why am I drawing the bat coming through? The bat should like be here, I think. Like the other hand should be holding, like the bat would show up around like here, maybe. Oh, thank you, Freyno, sir. Cool name. Yeah, we have about 20 minutes left. So let me know if you guys have any questions. And I'll try to like keep an eye out for them and answer them as best as I can. I'm gonna use smiles as a source of inspiration. Okay, so post your work. Yeah, if you guys are following along or trying this out, let me know. Would love to see how this is turning out for you guys. So I'm going to take this now, since we only have like 20 minutes left. I think this is a good spot to kind of work off of. And I'm going to duplicate it, and we are going to do the final version over here. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Actually, let's also change maybe like the crop a little bit so that we just have a little bit more space. Move it here. Okay, so this version is the cleanup. So this is like the final version. This is cleanup. Oh, I realize this is its own thing actually. I'm gonna lower this and gonna pick a darker color and let's sketch this out. So the brush that I'm using right now, this is a brush that I've been using kind of more recently lately. It's called Charcoal Pencil Thin. So if you're using Krita, this is the brush that I'm going to be using to kind of finish up this drawing here. So if you want to kind of check it out, try it, you can. It's just a more thinner version of the Charcoal Pencil Medium. The Charcoal Pencil Medium also has a little bit more, is a little bit thicker, it has a wider kind of brush tip, whereas the Charcoal Pencil Thin is a little bit more uniform. So it's great for kind of like final line work, but still retaining a little bit of the textures. Yeah, and these are all default brushes, by the way, so you can't go wrong with them either. It's a pretty good one to stick to. Okay, let's bump up the size. And let's have a little bit of fun with the shape of the head a little bit. Let's go for a more angular shape. And I'm noticing how big they make the eyes for Miles. So let's do the same thing. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's have a little bit of fun with how large we can make the eyes here. Oh, looks pretty good. And then Miles also has like these red outlines around his like eye mask, so let's add that. Play around with that. That looks pretty good. Now Miles is a little bit lankier, so I have, what is kind of also helping me right now is that I have the Spider-Man art book in front of me, and so I'm kind of using that to really help me understand how to draw like Miles's proportions. And I'm gonna kind of maintain his more thinner physique. He's much thinner than Peter is, just well, because I guess he's a bit younger and everything. And also I think a good thing to keep in mind is to try to not make him too muscular. I feel like sticking with simpler shapes and simpler lines would be good. So I'm kind of referring to an artist by, let me see, Jesus Alonso Iglesias. Let me put that in here. So he worked on the first Spider-Verse movie. Jesus Alonso Iglesias. A little shout out to the artist. This is the artist that I'm kind of like referencing in the art book to kind of build my kind of understanding of like how to potentially draw Miles. Maybe we can see a little bit of the shoulder on the other side. Let's put this here. So, oh, let's see, what is this? The hands always get covered? Wait, what are you guys talking about? Bought some cheap oh, okay, let me see. Big fan of working with charcoals. Never tried the charcoal brush digitally though. Might try it out later if I got some time. They leave on my finger's tip. Charcoals are fun, a little bit too messy. Oh yeah, they're for sure very messy. Wrap my hands in tape so I don't get. Dang, that's a. I've never seen anybody wrap their hands in tape. But you know what? That could work out. I've never seen that before, but that's a cool approach. Okay, and then let's see. Let's add a bit of the. I want to see how if he makes it like angled. Seems like it doesn't really make it angled, so we're not gonna do that. But I think I gotta make him a little bit thinner. Miles is just a little bit thinner. Maybe let's trim in this side. Here, that looks pretty good. I feel like that matches. Okay, and then his arm. I might have made his arm a little bit too thin, so we're gonna put this, or not too thin, a little bit too long. So we're gonna bring this in a little bit, and let's make him a little bit skinnier, or let's bring this like here, and something like that. Here, I think that looks a bit better. Oh, you wrapped the charcoal. Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I was like, dang, that's commitment. That's a commitment to the craft. Wrapping your hands in charc in tape. I was like, okay, you know what? You do whatever you need to do to make your hands not messy. I've never heard of that before, but that's okay. Okay, sure. But that makes a lot more sense. You wrap the charcoal in tape. That's pretty smart, actually. You know what? If I ever do some like figure drawing, I will keep that in mind. That's not a bad recommendation. I've never tried that before though, but sounds pretty legit. Okay, let's have the bat handle maybe like here. Actually, no. Let's have it be here. So when it comes to drawing hands holding something, you really want to make sure that the hands are bending and kind of moving in the way to accommodate for the object that they're holding. So don't have the hands just kind of hold things regularly, but try to have it match how it might like rebalance itself to hold an object. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to like map out like where the pinky would be in order to hold the bat. Honestly, I should have gotten my mirror to do it. I'm gonna kind of ignore the hand for now because I'm not too sure how this hand would be, but we're gonna worry about that later. Let's push the shoulder a little bit more in. Let me see. Okay, Guerrero's chest looks like it's bending this way. Now, if you're kind of like, oh, Josh, how do you know Guerrero's chest, or like the angle of the chest is this way and not like the other way? And that's because if I look at the logo on the chest, again, always look for context clues. The context clues for the logo is telling me that it's kind of bending this way. So I'm gonna do this way like that, and let's see, I think he gives Miles a little bit of like an indication of like hips and legs, not too much though. So we're just gonna add a little bit, but not too much. Let me see, is that it might be a little bit low. I might have made his hips sit a little bit low. Let's yeah, let's start it higher maybe. I think higher a little bit. Okay, gonna have to change some stuff. We can make his legs longer then. And oh, his legs are like sticks. This is an example of what I was talking about, like with the carrot sticks. The carrot legs, where it's like very, 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 very thin. Let's simplify this a bit more. Do you guys have a video featuring hands? I'm pretty sure we do. We've done it so many times that we probably do, but I don't have one off the top of my head of which one that I could like refer, but we definitely should have some tutorial videos on hands. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. Vin on top of things. Thank you, Vin, for finding that. Let me see. You know, we'll give him. Well, let's space out the foot a little bit. How's that look? That looks pretty good. Gives it a little bit of dimension to the legs and to the feet. That looks pretty good. Maybe I might shift this part up a little bit. Yeah. So a little neat trick is that a lot of the times the lower leg is slightly longer than the upper half of the legs, so your calf is that calf area from the knee to the ankle is usually a little bit longer than the thigh area. That just makes your characters look a little bit taller. So if you've ever like, oh, I want to make my characters look taller and a little bit more elegant, how do I do that? You usually want to do that by making the calf or like the knee area to the ankle a little bit longer. Okay, and then let's say it's the bat. Let's make the bat just like actually no, this is a good size for a bat. I was gonna be like, oh, maybe I need to make the bat a little like longer, but we'll just keep it like this. Ooh, might be a bit too thick for a bat. Hey, there we go. Nice. Let me see. Okay, we gotta add like the costume details now. Let's put the red. Or here, let's draw it. Let's draw it in. Let's draw it in with red. Let's make it very. Let's go for very punchy red. Let me see. Yeah, maybe we might see a little bit of it here. And let me see. How is it wrapped? Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah. As a standard in baseball, the bat should be as long as the arm or about as long. Oh, okay. Thanks for that. Did not know that. Okay, I think that kind of looks about right then. I think that's about the length of his arm. Okay, what's next is the Spider-Man logo. Whoops. Whoop. Let's put it here and then bigger. Maybe it should be bigger. Okay. And we can put the spider logo around here. Actually, how does he do the spider logo? Oh, he has it like pretty large. So this is, I guess, one of those cases where we're gonna go a little bit over the 2 hours that we usually do, and I'm gonna have it be until we finish this, because I think I can finish this. Might just take a little bit of time, but I think we should be good. And then there's like a little bit of drip. This is supposed to be like spray painted on. I don't know, this feels more like This feels more like blood. Maybe there's no drip. Just the like the legs going past. Okay. Maybe something like that. But this makes me think of Miles hitting the spot with a baseball. Yeah, I'm very excited for the movie. I hope they find a good resolution for that movie, because I think just like with everybody's main concern with the film is just that, like in terms of like in regards to the story, is just like they had such a good setup with the second movie. I'm really hoping that they stick the landing with the story. I think that's it. Yeah, and when I look at the costume, it looks like this is all they have on it. Yeah, okay. Oh, and also I guess is like, you know what? We will just color it all in. Well, we'll do the red all in one layer. I think that'll be just kind of cool. Kind of keep it. So if you guys are like, why are you rendering like Miles in this way? This is, I'm kind of trying to copy the style that they did for concept art for Miles in the art book. So this is by Jesus Alonso Iglesias. So he kind of did the renderings in this way. So I'm trying to capture that kind of messy style that he had when he was drawing Miles. So that's kind of what I'm trying to reference. So yeah, it has this more like messier approach to it, which I think is like pretty cool. Let's raise it up a little bit. So let's color the whole thing in, so we can make it a bit darker. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's across the Spider-Verse book. It's so interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, it's, you know what? I would say that I didn't really love the book at first when I got it. So that's not to say that like I didn't like the artwork. The artwork in it is awesome, but it's just the layout of the book. I have some problems with like how they went about the layout of it. But you know what? Over time, I kind of appreciate what they were going for with the layout of the book. To me, if you're kind of wondering, it's like, oh, what's wrong with it? It's a little bit too empty in my opinion. They don't fully utilize the full kind of space and size of the art book as well as I would have liked for them to have utilized it, because there's so much extra like empty room and empty space that I think they could have kind of utilized. And not only that, but like so many of the drawings are so tiny. They're like itty bitty tiny drawings, and part of me is just like, why couldn't they be like really big, like get a nice zoom in and close up of like the characters' expressions and all that. But you know what, like over time I'm like, you know what, I kind of get what you're going for and like why it's spaced out in this way. Yeah, it is what it is. It kind of sucks. I still would have preferred some nice clean zoom ins, and there's a lot of drawings that are also just missing. Like when I bought the book, I was really curious to see like how they came up with a design concept for Doc Ock, but they like didn't have any like concept art for her. And I was like, wait, what? She has like such a cool design shape, and you're telling me you didn't bother trying to come up with any, or like didn't include any of that? That's kind of weird. So I feel like it was just like a huge missed opportunity on like what they were able to show, and then they never bothered showing any of like her designs, and I'm just like, why? Just include some of it. It's so cool. Like her design is so sick. Like just like the variant aspect of it and all that. Like why do you not show any of it? And then if you go on Shiun Kim, who's one of the like designers from the movie, if you go on his website, he has a lot of concept kind of designs just drawing in figuring out like what she would look like and kind of like the different expressions for her. And I was just like, you could have included this in the concept art. Like, why is it not included? It's so weird. So yeah, it feels weird to me that they didn't bother doing any of that. I don't know why. I don't know why they just didn't include everything. It's a little bit of a weird choice for me. But overall, the art book is still great though. I actually like it more, even though I think most people probably like the characters more in Into the Spider or Across the Spider-Verse. I think Into the Spider-Verse's art book is overall better in a way, but that's just like a subjective take. I just like the character designs and the artwork in Across the Spider-Verse a little bit, just a little bit more, but not anything like over the top. Nothing like, I'm not anything like, oh, it's so much better. It's like a little bit better. Okay, there we go. Oh, also, I guess I'll color in the bat then. Let me see, where's the... Making it a nice, good old brown color, tan color. Oh, the eyes. We gotta color in the eyes. Let's make it like a little bit blue. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. Okay, there we go. Nice. They're usually so interesting to look through and see the process. Yeah, those are like the best art books. It's when they don't hold back and they kind of show you everything on like the development process of it and how they got through like making the movie and all that. Like that's the best. Like when they're like willing to show a little bit of everything and really let you see behind the scenes as to like how they designed like certain shapes and the look of the movie. Like that's what I love the most. But sometimes what I've noticed is like some art books and some like studios don't show all of it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I don't know, that they just don't want to showcase everything, which is a little annoying because you're like, that's what I buy the art book for. I want to kind of see all the nitty-gritty details, all the design decisions that you made and everything. So it feels weird when they like don't show everything or when they don't put in everything. Like I get it, there's a limit to the book and like the pages and how much details you can put in. There's probably like maybe even some like rights to, in terms of like they can only include so many drawings from so many different artists before they have to maybe pay some kind of like compensation for it. But then at that point I'm like, might as well just pay it all, just like show, like put everything in there. But I don't know, maybe that's just me and my gripe with art books sometimes. It's just like they don't put everything in there, and I wish they would. Oh, I realized that the leg is a little bit odd. Let me just fix that. Okay, there we go. I think that's like a nice, good kind of transition in conclusion. Let me see if there's any. I guess this is the end, but let's kind of like go through everything that we did here, essentially. So, this is kind of the 3 different steps or 3 different parts of how I would use kind of a video reference to get a pose for a character that's completely different. The body proportions are a bit different. So in the first one that we did here, this is where I got a picture of Guerrero, who is a player on the Blue Jays baseball team, and we basically traced over the image to kind of deconstruct and find out. Let me duplicate it one more time. Just like duplicating this thing all the time. Let's put it like here. Let's make it bigger so we can kind of fit it. Let me see, where's his head? Okay, his head's here. And let's put there we go. Maybe like that. Something like that. Maybe a little bit bigger. Somewhere like, okay, maybe now it's too big. Okay, maybe here. It's good to know. So the first thing that we did is we took a picture of Guerrero and we traced over him so we can kind of see generally what is all the necessary information to extract from the reference. So those are things like how the body is leaning, the shape of the torso, what part of the body is stretching, what is pinching, so that we can really map out the torso properly, the angle of the legs and the angle of the limbs, and all the necessary information. So necessary meaning when you're extracting from a reference, you're not trying to extract things like anatomy necessarily, or the details of the clothing, or the fingers, or the facial features. Those are all unnecessary, because if you're transferring this information to like an animal or a creature, those things are all going to be kind of thrown out the window to a certain degree. So we only trying to extract like kind of the shapes and the alignment of things. And then I took what we had here and I redrew it as Spider-Man. So when I did the second version, the reinterpretation, I brought in the reference image again, and this time I dropped an anchor line to kind of help me figure out the balance of it, because this is such an extreme pose. I really want to make sure that the head is balanced in a way that that works for this pose. So you can see that the head is way off to the left and the body and the leg are more over to the right. This is how you get it to be this not balanced kind of looking pose. And the bat to kind of help counterbalance it as well. But for the reinterpretation stage, I didn't transfer this image over and draw it on top of the first version, and that is because I don't want this to guide every single decision and every single line that I draw. When I'm drawing it as a brand new character, I kind of want to let the design and the look of the character kind of guide my decisions more than the mannequin underneath. So that's why I didn't like duplicate this mannequin and put it here and draw on top of the mannequin, because I find that when you do that, you get more caught up on matching your character to the initial reference, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to extract the necessary information. So that's why I redrew it from scratch, but trying to mimic what is important here. So like the angles of the arm, the placement of the head in relationship to the rest of the body, and then also kind of thinking about like how Miles's proportions and his body type would kind of fit this angle and this twisting that is happening in here for Guerrero, because Guerrero's again a much more bulkier, bigger guy, and Miles is very thin, he's very lean, so the proportions and the body is going to be shaped differently. Definitely in this case for Miles, knowing a good amount of anatomy does help a lot, because then you know where to put angle changes and details that is kind of not there in Guerrero's this reference shot. So this is kind of like the reinterpretation of it. And then in the cleanup, I do duplicate the reinterpretation layer. I duplicate it, bring it over into the cleanup, lower the opacity. As you can kind of see, let me see, where's the line work? Oh, here. So you can see I duplicated this one, brought it over here, lowered the opacity to quite a low percentage. I usually lower it up down to like 14 or 15%, somewhere around there, and then I draw over, but I make any changes that I see that I think is not working in favor of like the drawing. So what that means is like sometimes when we're drawing something, or like our initial take of it, it's kind of a little bit raw. It's a kind of like a fresh interpretation. So things like proportions and body sizes might be a little bit off. So when you do the cleanup, you still have to make some adjustments and some changes to better have it match, match better to the character that you're drawing. So that's why you can see like the shapes of the legs, the proportions, how wide the torso is, the size of the arm. They're all a little bit they've been changed a little bit to better accommodate for Miles's proportions. Even though I went into the initial drawing with that same mindset, the cleanup is really when you tighten up and you really hone in and make it much more refined. And yeah, so that's kind of how we got here. The 3 different versions, or not versions, but how I kind of take a video. So again, if anybody's just joining us, I don't know if any of you guys are joining, but we went and took a photo or a screenshot from one of these highlight videos from the Blue Jays games from a video, and I kind of in the beginning of the stream walked through how to scroll through a video to find a good shot. And just a quick recap on like why video references are really good is because when we look for still images of poses, usually it's a person slowing down and getting into that pose and holding it. And sometimes when you do that, you're kind of, it's not a true interpretation of an actual action or motion pose. So when you're doing like actually swinging a bat, the way you turn the body, the gravity, the momentum that's driving the bat forward, it's kind of hard to mimic that if you just hold it and you try to just get into that pose. So video references are really good at capturing the more natural movement of like an action pose. So that's why we find video references and then we scrub through it, try to find the best frame for it, and then I screenshot it and then I paste it onto my working space here, and then we trace over and deconstruct it, and that's how we get to this over here. And that's pretty much it. So if you guys well, I guess hope you guys enjoyed this stream. Hope you guys like this kind of breakdown, and hope you guys get a chance to try this out yourselves again, because this month is the month of motion poses for our art challenge for this month. Definitely if you do this and follow through with this exercise, it's like you pretty much get to submit it, throw it into the art challenge channel on our Discord, and we'll get a chance to take a look at it, because sometimes we miss some of your submissions, or we miss sometimes like when our community posts stuff and they want us to take a look at it, but sometimes it just gets lost in the noise. But this time this is like the perfect opportunity for it because it aligns with our art challenge. So yeah, if you guys do this, feel free to put it in there, and we might even give you a little bit of a shout out at the beginning of the stream. But that kind of concludes our stream. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, if you are just joining us for the first time, my name is Josh. I'm an instructor at Wing Canvas, and I specialize in drawing and painting, I guess character design, and animation. So yeah, those are the classes that I teach on our website, and if you want to check out those classes, definitely go on our website, wingcanvas.com, where you can check out a whole list of classes to sign up for. We go into topics just like these in our classes, and we even get to give our students feedback and get to kind of take a deeper dive into your submissions. So if you really want to upgrade your skills, definitely check out our classes. But if you don't know who we are a school of illustration and visual storytelling, and we try to dedicate our time and our experiences in helping art nerds, our students, turn their passion into income. So if you guys are interested, definitely check out our website, but if not, no worries. And if you did like the stream, definitely like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. That is like the best way to know when we stream and what we're streaming next. So if you didn't know, let's see what we have coming up next. It is actually our Saturday stream on Valentine's Day, and it's going to be a collab stream. So this one's a little bit of a different one, and it's also a little bit of a special stream too, because it's actually our 12th year anniversary. So it's gonna be me and Faye. We're gonna team up together and do a cool little drawing. We have something special in store for you guys, but it's also a good Q&A session. So while we're drawing, you guys are kind of bring your questions in. If you have any kind of burning curiosities as to how we tackle things, or some like interesting topics that you want us to go over in regards to art, definitely bring them to our Saturday stream at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And also a little bit of a heads up, there is no stream on Monday because it is family day for us over in Canada. So just a little bit of a heads up, we're doing a 12-year anniversary stream on Valentine's Day at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So bring your questions in and come hang out with us as we chill and have a good anniversary stream. Caniversary. Oh, that's a bit of a stretch there, Vin, but I like it. And yeah. Oh, I guess that's kind of it. Yeah, so keep an eye out for this drawing. It will be posted on our socials at a later time. We'll be posting it on Discord, or I'll be posting it on Discord, and then our social team is gonna post it on Instagram shortly. So yeah, keep an eye out on Discord and Instagram. And if you don't follow us there, definitely give us a follow and join our Discord if you haven't. And I think that's about it. Thank you all for joining the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I had a good time drawing Spider-Man swinging a baseball bat with you guys, and I'll catch you on Saturday. See ya. Bye bye.